Alrighty. So today we're going to talk about the kidney diet, of course. That's why we're all here. The gist of our kidney diet, as we're going to learn, is to really prevent buildup of harmful waste products and extra fluid, especially because we know as our kidneys are slowing down due to chronic kidney disease, they are unable to regulate these different dietary aspects as well as they used to. Okay, and it's also good to understand what you may come into in the future and understand what you can do now to slow the progression of your disease. Right? So we'll go through all these different dietary changes that you may have to implement in your lifestyle. We'll talk about sodium. That's a big one for everybody. Protein adjustments that may need to happen. Carbohydrates, we'll touch on. That's definitely, a lot more important for our diabetic patients. Fats, fluids we'll talk about, potassium and phosphorus. So these are all different aspects that we will be able to go over today and understand why, our kidneys are having a hard time filtering them out and things that you can do about it. All righty. Okay, so we'll start talking about sodium here. This is, again, our more basic for all CKD stages. As you can see, I have written right next to all of our different nutrition blocks here, what's applicable for which stage, just so you know. Okay, so when you have chronic kidney disease, unfortunately, your kidneys cannot regulate fluids as normally as they used to. Okay, excessive sodium or salt intake can lead to high blood pressure as well. And we know from our basics class that high blood pressure does damage the kidneys over time, and it is one of the leading causes of kidney failure. So you definitely, go ahead.
You said it as well.
Yeah, so there are.
Does that mean the way it reads, it can lead to high blood pressure, and blood pressure is going to really be a problem for the kidneys?
Yep.
But does it imply that if you don't have high blood pressure, then whatever salt intake you have is okay?
Salt can put pressure on the kidneys either way, because if you have, and we'll talk about when your kidney disease is a little bit more progressed, then the kidneys cannot regulate the fluid intake as much. And sodium and salt causes your body to hold on to excess fluid.
So even though even though there's no high blood pressure,
it could cause issues for you down the line.
Okay.
Exactly. For those at risk for kidney disease, it is recommended to have no more than 2,000 milligrams of sodium, or if you think about a 1 teaspoon balance throughout the day. Okay.
So you just can't put it on your steak.
Yeah, I would definitely avoid that because there's sodium in so many things. You wouldn't want to just overdo it on one meal and then risk that, right? You don't want to start off your breakfast with a teaspoon of salt. Okay. And we have a little shaker there. So some tips for you guys to avoid excess sodium. Using fresh foods, of course, rather than packaged foods, because they do add a lot of sodium in these packaged processed foods. Choosing fresh fruit and vegetables. Being careful when buying frozen vegetables, definitely looking at the labels before you pick stuff. Choose things that say fresh frozen. And then you can even look at, if the item contains added seasoning or sauces, usually that adds a lot of extra sodium.
Or what about organic?
Organic doesn't make a difference in regards to sodium, Comparing various food brands too, I tell our patients this a lot, especially in bread. If you kind of look through the nutrition facts, see which type of bread has a higher amount and trying to go towards the ones with a lower amount, because this unfortunately, different brands do hike up their amount of sodium. It's interesting, you know, but it's definitely worth it to take a look and put some effort into your food shopping like that. Okay. Selecting spices as well. This is another thing that do not have sodium in their labels. I know a lot of people use like the Mrs. Dash, or some people also go for, you know, mixes, like McCormick creates certain mixes, but a lot of times they add a lot of sodium and then people don't realize, and they're adding more salt too. So just keeping, you know, an eye on that. Also choosing things like garlic powder over garlic salt. All right, little tips there. Yes, the salt shaker is half the battle. I always say that as well. Of course, when you're cooking, sodium does flavor our food, but keeping in mind that there's probably sodium in our food before we even get it to the table. Just trying to eliminate that salt shaker, you know, will help you out tremendously. Okay, all right. So we're going to focus on protein for a couple of slides here. This might be new to a lot of you guys. This is applicable in chronic kidney disease from stages 3 to 4. Okay, so you can start, you know, thinking about this and talking to your nephrologist about this as early as stage 3. Protein, of course, this is something that is needed in your body's everyday needs to function. But unfortunately, in kidney disease, your body might not be able to remove all of the waste products produced by protein intake. Okay. So to understand, you know, a little bit of why you may need to dial back on protein, right? Excess protein waste can build up in your blood. Your kidneys are not filtering it as fast as it used to. So this can build up and can eventually cause nausea, loss of appetite, weakness, and taste change.
What are some examples of protein waste? Like, how much chicken should you have? Or
Yep, we're gonna go through that.
okay.
Yep, definitely. I have some visuals for you guys.
Great.
Yeah, so basically, if you think about it, the more protein that you eat, the more waste product is being produced by the protein that you're taking in. And then it makes it harder on your kidneys to work to get rid of it. Okay, this of course can put more stress on your kidneys, causing them to wear out faster. All right, so this is why, you know, even in stage 3, definitely speak to your nephrologist about it, because essentially our goal in chronic kidney disease is to slow the progression. So we don't want to do anything that's going to add extra pressure onto our kidneys, essentially causing them to deteriorate faster. Okay, so again, to reiterate, of course, with kidney disease, a diet lower in protein is recommended. Okay, so the general protein guideline for CKD. This is kind of a crazy equation, and you guys will have it on your handouts there, and then online, I emailed you guys the handout. The equation is limiting your protein from 0.6 to 0.8 grams of protein per weight in kilograms. Okay, so you guys can all do the math, what that means for yourself. I would definitely, before absolutely sticking to this guidelines, talk to your doctor, talk to your nephrologist, and later on we'll talk about bringing in a dietitian or a nutritionist into, you know, consideration. But for example, if your weight is 150 pounds or 68 kilograms, that's basically what I weigh right now. And this is just like a, you know, a random weight. I did the equation. You would be having 54 grams or less of protein per day. And I know this is hard to visualize, but we'll go through visualizations in the next slide. Okay.
Can you say how 54 grams is about how many ounces? Like, how do you?
I'd have to do the math.
Yeah, like,
We
how
could
do you
do it.
figure out, if you have a piece of chicken, how do you figure out how many grams of protein
Yeah.
it is?
You can
You have
do,
to show us how to convert that
Yeah.
into ounces.
you could do, if you guys are good with your phones, I always do this. I pull it up right on my phone in Safari, on Google, and I do the amount, like translating grams to ounces. And then you know how many ounces a piece of chicken or things like that. So that's what I usually do. Just so you guys are aware, muscle mass loss, a lot of patients are worried about this as we get older, especially females, we do lose muscle mass a little bit. The risk of that with this sweet spot is minimal to none, just so you know. So that's why it's here.
1
Yes.
gram is 0.0.
The equation limiting that and plugging in, your numbers versus your weight in kilograms. Okay. Many studies do suggest that limiting the amount of protein and including more plant-based foods in the diet, this may help slow the loss of your kidney function. Okay. So just so you are aware, plant-based proteins do break down into less urea, which is the waste product, than animal protein does. Okay. Popular diets that are not recommended in chronic kidney disease, just so you guys are aware, these consist of the keto, paleo, and Atkins. Okay, why? Because these diets are typically higher in protein and less in carbs, okay? But we know now that the higher the protein, this can worsen your kidney function in people with chronic kidney disease, right? Because your body, again, just to reiterate, will have more trouble eliminating all the waste products of the protein. Okay, let's see. Wow, can't even get that off. All righty, we got a little love note on our slide here. All right, so here are my visuals when watching your protein intake. Measuring 4 ounces of protein is visually equivalent to either a deck of cards, okay, or the inside of the palm of your hand. So just little visuals for you. We definitely, have to work on our equation and mapping out the exact amount of grams of protein you should have per day. And this is why I also say, discussing this with your nephrologist and possibly bringing in a nutritionist to tell you exactly which guidelines to follow. And then you can use little tricks like this to map out and understand what you're eating instead of, I guess.
Does it matter how you cook
the protein? So you would look at it, because obviously protein, everything that you cook shrinks, right? So you get a piece of chicken and you cook it and it cooks down. You would measure it after.
in the example that I'm thinking of is baking versus frying.
Mm-hmm.
No.
It doesn't, so that doesn't make a difference in regards to the amount of protein that stays in the item. I would say, just trying to eat healthier and try to lower your cholesterol, so to speak. Of course, baking is healthier in general than having to fry in oil and have all that excess. All right. This is a good guideline. It is available on our Padlet website, which I did share with everybody online. And then you guys should have a link, I think, on that page. Maybe not. I'll make sure you guys have it before you leave. It's linked so that you could view it on your phone or online. You could print this out. This is a good balanced plate for our kidney diet. We could see here that our proteins should be, I'm just going a little crazy, no more than a fourth of the size of your plate. So just to portion that out and keep that in mind, that when you're eating, we're used to, I feel like in America here, having big protein portions where that's like the center of the meal. But there's a lot of good tips on here, how to balance your plate. Another good recommendation that I have posted on our resource board is called Kidney Kitchen. They have a lot of good recipes if you're trying to limit protein, or we'll talk about our other aspects of nutrition like phosphorus or potassium. If you're trying to limit those things, there's nice recipes on that website that you can utilize. Okay. Of course, your doctor is going to be drawing bloods and taking urine on you, monitoring your kidney function in regards to the protein in your urine, and making sure, you know, they're taking the correct tests to make sure if you do need any necessary dietary or medicine changes, they'll keep on top of that with you. So I did want to just go through some of the lab tests that could be testing for the protein, right? One of them is the total protein or albumin to creatinine ratio, which is in your urine. Oh no, this is the blood test. And this, in chronic kidney disease, the result is higher than 30, just to understand that. The urine albumin, oh, it is urine, sorry. This does check for kidney damage. The lower the result, the better and less damage your kidneys are, of course. Okay. Serum albumin, this is the blood. The normal range is 3.4 to 5.0. Okay. And then this is a protein that helps measure how well you're eating. So you definitely don't want to go below, you know, the limit, because you're worried and you're limiting too much protein, because that's not good either. But you don't want to be seeing these levels increase as well. So there is a sweet spot to maintain with the protein. All right. Let me know when you guys are done writing it down.
So the serum, that's a blood test that
Yes.
the kidney doctor would order.
Yep.
And the normal is 3.4 to 5.
Exactly. I really don't know how we got this red scribble on our
It's
screen.
crazy.
So weird. Okay. So we went through our protein. Does anybody have any questions about the protein? No. Okay. So we'll start jumping into our potassium, and this is highly present.
When you say the protein,
Mhm.
and you're talking about meat and no more than, say, the size of your hand, does that include fish, for example?
Yes. So protein is in fish, it's in red meat, chicken, you know, all animal muscle meat that, you know, you would take in. It's also found in different plants too. So like legumes are higher in protein, beans, different
Beans are high in
grains.
protein?
Yes, different grains can have protein in it.
Nuts and seeds.
Yes. So you just have to get, you know, you have to see, of course, you have to eat more of the plant protein, a higher amount to get the same amount of protein that you would in the animal protein. So,
But your body, your kidneys work with the plant protein much better than they do with the animal protein.
yes, exactly. So we did touch on that. Remember, it creates less waste product in our body with the plant protein than the animal protein does. Okay. All right, so potassium. This is prevalent in later chronic kidney disease, really towards the, you know, stage 4 to 5. Okay, your doctor will be monitoring your potassium levels very frequently. Every time you get blood work done with the doctor, whether you're in earlier CKD or later, they're doing the potassium levels in that basic metabolic panel that they always draw. Okay. Potassium is very important. It does affect how your muscles and nerves work. Okay. High levels or low levels can be very dangerous.
So when you have a blood test, if you're somewhere in the middle, you're okay then?
Exactly. Yes. So we're going to go through the different blood tests for like all of these aspects that you can check and the doctor monitors. And there's always a sweet spot in between you need to keep your body balanced in. Okay. Unfortunately, again, when your kidneys are not working well, extra potassium can go back into your bloodstream instead of filtered out of your body because your kidneys aren't able to keep on top of the potassium filtering out. Okay. Changing what you eat can help you manage your potassium levels, of course. All right. This is what, you should try out before going on medication. We always encourage nutritional changes instead of starting a new medication. You cannot stay away from potassium completely. Remember, high levels or low levels can be dangerous, so it's a balancing act here. Some tips after you speak to your doctor or dietitian, they'll tell you how much potassium you should have each day. Keeping into consideration eating lower potassium foods. Okay, this is
bananas have potassium.
Yep, there's my little banana pick.
Does that mean we should have 3 bananas a day?
No.
I didn't think so.
No.
So what are lower potassium foods?
So we have information on lower potassium foods that I actually have again on our our website, the Padlet board that I'll share with you guys. Some of you may already have it. If you have a potassium issue, it gives you some columns of lower potassium fruits and vegetables versus higher. Okay. Potassium's in everything that grows out of the ground, essentially. The key is to stick to the lower amounts of potassium.
Oranges have a lot of potassium?
I don't recall where they are on that spectrum.
The answer is yes.
They are on the higher
I
side.
was, because I had attended another session.
Gotcha.
And you should have no more than about half an orange
Okay.
a day and half of a banana.
Okay. Yes,
That's
half the
that would be
banana
for
thing
potassium.
I know.
So the oranges are good, but only about.
Yeah, you got to portion it.
And the same thing, apples, you should have like a small apple
Right.
a day, not a big apple.
Well, a big one's like almost like 2 apples.
Right.
Exactly. So, just using your common sense here. If you're sticking to lower potassium foods, but you're eating so much, it's gonna negate the whole situation
Right,
either way.
right.
The higher potassium foods, if you can't live without potatoes, tomatoes, the bananas, just lower your portion sizes and you'll get obviously less potassium out of that. There are tricks you can do. You can soak the potatoes before cooking them, which takes out some of the potassium, little things like that. Again, we just talked about this, checking serving sizes and controlling your portions, right? Carefully tracking the amount of potassium in what you eat and drink, especially if this is, a health risk for you. If you've had high potassium in the past, we have another nice app that does track these little micronutrients. You could input it in the app and it tells you how much potassium each item has. So, and you could track it during the day. It'll add it up for you. Okay, and what you drink too. Potassium can be found in different types of drinks. Okay, that's it there. Those are my tips.
Is it in tea?
I don't think so. We could look it up. I would look it up.
In an herbal tea?
I don't think so, but again, it's more of drinks that are made out of like I would say with additives. Yeah. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
That I believe has potassium, those juices. So just definitely checking the labels, understanding what you're putting into your body, and tracking it. Okay. So here are potassium numbers for our lab learning right here. We want to stay in that safe green stripe, okay? You want your potassium to be between 3.5 to 5.0. Of course, once it starts creeping up after 5, your doctor is going to tell you. If it's in the caution side, they'll try to have you fix it with changing your diet, possibly having you repeat the blood test in a week or so, making sure it's not staying in this caution level. But once it gets to high to very high is very dangerous. You do not want this to go above 6. With having high potassium, again, it can cause heart problems. You need to take care of this. So if it gets very high, your doctor is going to send you to the hospital. Okay, they need this potassium to be flushed out of you. And then once they get the level back down, they will again possibly recommend even a medication to try to keep it at bay, and then see how you do with the dietary changes. All right, so that's all for the potassium. Any questions on the potassium? No. Okay, so we'll start talking about phosphorus here. Just a little intro. This again is in later stages, after stage 4 to 5. All right. I have our little Coke bottles in the corner. Phosphorus is found in dark sodas, which we'll talk about later. But as a general knowledge, what is phosphorus, right? It is a mineral that is found in your bones, okay? And this is where, if you guys remember that in the basics class, one of the functions of the kidneys is to regulate the minerals that do affect your bones, right? So along with calcium, phosphorus is needed to build strong, healthy bones. And it does other things as well, keeping other parts of your body healthy, of course. But as with all of our other aspects of nutrition today that we learned, when you have the chronic kidney disease, your kidneys cannot remove phosphorus very well. Extra phosphorus, okay, when it's not being removed as well, this can cause body changes that pulls calcium out of your bones. So this process, when you have too much calcium, can cause your bones to become weak. Okay. This having extra phosphorus can also lead to hard blood vessels and itchy skin.
How does it impact the skin?
It's just, I don't know the exact details, but this is just something that, when you have an excess of it, it does impact that.
So on the other side, if you have itchy skin, does that mean that you're probably high in phosphorus?
I wouldn't jump to that conclusion. This would happen after you're aware that it is a problem already. Your doctor at this point, where phosphorus could be a complication, would be checking this in the labs and should catch it before it comes to that point. Okay. We'll go through the blood tests after. Yep, that's what I was just gonna say. Exactly. I have the lab value for you to keep an eye on. And even if you're interested, if you are in later stages and your doctor hasn't talked to you about your phosphorus, doesn't hurt to ask them. Okay. There it is. Okay, so we have our calcium, which the normal is 8.5 to 10.2. You want to stick to that sweet spot. Okay. And then the phosphorus level. So that's between 2.7 to 4.6.
0.7 to 4.6.
I want to say the phosphorus isn't a part of their basic metabolic panel. Usually it's not.
It has to be requested especially.
Yeah, and usually the doctor, depending on what stage you're in, they'll check it, but it doesn't hurt to ask.
Does it have anything to do with the hyperparathyroid?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
Do you know what the correlation is? I know that he talks about that with the hyperparathyroid, but
With the calcium,
yeah.
I'm not as versed in that aspect of chronic kidney disease, but it does have to do with your bones and the calcium, your kidneys being able to hold on to the calcium. So I don't want to go into too much detail about it, but it is all related into, trying to keep your bones healthy and all of that. Okay. So keeping your phosphorus levels normal by understanding your diet and medications for phosphorus control. Yes. So we'll talk about that for a little bit. Organic phosphorus is naturally found in protein-rich foods such as meats, poultry, fish, nuts, beans, and dairy products. Okay. Phosphorus that is found in animal foods, it's absorbed more easily than phosphorus found in plant foods. Okay. So, but this means that you're absorbing more out of the animal foods than out of the plant foods. Okay. So more phosphorus on the kidneys is not a good thing. Inorganic phosphorus, it's found in fast foods, ready to eat foods. It's an additive, right? Canned and bottled drinks, enhanced meats like cold cuts,
Have to get rid of it.
and most processed foods. So a lot of times I have been told that they don't really list phosphorus as an ingredient on the nutrition label. So if this is an issue, a dietary issue that has been brought to your attention through your nephrologist or your nutritionist, definitely work with them and get some lists and understand, you know, how much you have to monitor this.
So I mean, the rule of thumb then is stay away from processed foods and ready-to-eat foods.
Yeah. All in all, general kidneys or, you know, heart, whichever you're trying to protect and just remain healthy, processed foods are just,
The
they're
worst, the worst.
they're not good for you. Trying to limit that as much as possible is a good rule of thumb. Okay, so we'll talk about possible mineral and bone complications in chronic kidney disease from phosphorus. Okay, this is something that your doctor will try to catch early in your chronic kidney disease, right? And this is where that hyperparathyroidism comes into play too. Your kidneys cannot balance the calcium, phosphorus, and vitamin D. Okay. Some foods that can make this worse. Again, some extras here: the dark sodas, nuts, processed foods, and dairy. Of course, we already spoke about this. The high phosphorus levels could lead to weak bones, so you definitely want to be careful and catch this earlier. And again, I know we're talking about a lot of things that we can't have. The key is to really try to balance this and understand everybody's different. Not everybody has all of these different complications.
Yeah, well, what can we?
I'm saying nuts overall, but there are a lot of different types of nuts.
Yeah.
Is there any particular that you absolutely stay away from?
They don't really specify, so I can imagine that it's just the phosphorus in nuts in general, but we, you know, can definitely look into some specifics, I'm sure.
And a lot of times
online.
when you buy nuts, you buy them salted.
Yeah,
I mean,
so
Unsalted.
I would say
Unsalted.
definitely sticking to the guidelines of the kidney diet, get your unsalted nuts.
Right.
You're gonna have,
Get them in Costco, big jar of them.
yeah, exactly. So the salted nuts, oof, they really put those through the roof with the
And the serving
additives.
size is very small on nuts.
Yeah, it is shockingly,
Very dense
like a
in
handful
calories, yes.
is a lot.
Less than a quarter of a cup.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
You
phone
can't
nuts
sit
as well.
watching TV with
with the
Oh,
bowl of
yeah.
nuts, I wouldn't recommend.
Yeah, but now they're gonna tell you,
Yeah.
you can't have a lot.
Okay, so fluids, we'll talk about, fluid regulation is really not, prevalent in chronic kidney disease where you'll have to make changes until very later stages. So late stage 4 and stage 5.
Thank you.
Okay. We did touch on this earlier. We were talking about the sodium. Advanced chronic kidney disease is associated with fluid retention. So your kidneys aren't able to get rid of as much fluid as quick, right? So then your body starts to just build up the fluid in your arms, your legs, just more because the kidneys are slower to release the fluid. This occurs even more frequently if you do have underlying heart disease as well. Okay.
And what about exercise?
Exercise, I mean, exercise is great. We're not really focusing on that during this class, but it definitely, you know, just health-wise in general, but I don't know really how it comes into play into the fluids. You just, if you're at the stage, you just have to kind of work that out with your doctor and talk about,
Like sweat is a fluid,
right,
and when you exercise, you can release a lot of it.
yeah.
And
So-
I just wonder how applicable.
A lot of people, I feel, that come to this stage where they are retaining a lot of fluid. Sometimes they're very, very sick and have so many other complications that I don't even know if
The exercise comes into
it
play
would
at this
be
point.
like, yeah, something that they're worried about. But I think definitely talking to your doctor about it, you know, making sure you understand what's best for you in your disease progression and what, you know, if you, regardless, if you're swelling or whatever, and you're still walking and sweating, talking to your doctor, hey, I'm pretty active. If I'm on a fluid limit, can I increase if I walk this day? You know what I mean? Just being balanced with it and keeping your doctor in the
What
loop.
about intake of water, for example?
So, and we'll talk about it when you are, you know, on a fluid restriction. Again, it's a lot of times you'll see in later chronic kidney disease, especially if you have heart failure. They definitely will put fluid restrictions on you, but until then, they don't really give you the guidelines for fluid.
Or they'll say, like my doctor says, to drink a lot of water.
Yeah.
To flush,
That's what my
to
doctor
flush
said.
Yeah,
the waste that, because he always checks for a swelling, the edema, and I never have it, so he
exactly.
says, keep drinking the water, keep drinking the
Yeah.
water.
It basically, fluids, they're not a problem until they are,
Mhm,
and you'll see it. Okay, and your doctor will see it.
mhm.
They're, you know, you can visually see it in a lot of times they check your legs
Right,
at
your
the
ankles and
doctors,
things,
your
right.
ankles.
If your
You'll
fingers are
see if
swollen.
your fingers are swollen or not.
Mhm.
Sometimes patients feel their face. So it's definitely, you know, you'll know. There is a correlation, which is interesting, of the amount of protein in your urine. The more protein in your urine, the more likely you are to retain fluid.
Mhm.
So I know at the doctor's office, a lot of them take that protein urine test every time you see them. Okay. Fluid overload, yes, this can cause to swelling, which we just talked about, of course, where the fluid kind of just pools in your extremities and you could see it, and this is what the doctor will check for. In late stage chronic kidney disease, again, talked about this, but I'll just reiterate, your nephrologist may put you on some restrictions or even water pills. So this is something that, you know, you may have to come across down the line. And this, of course, helps control the amount of fluid retained in your body. Okay, kind of bringing it back to our sodium intake here. Again, reiterating, excess sodium can contribute to this fluid retention, all right? It causes your body to hold on to extra fluid. So at this time, if you are, you know, holding on to fluid, you should typically restrict less than that 2 grams per day when you are, you know, overloaded with the fluid that's causing pressure on your kidneys.
But if you have a meal and it has a lot of salt, I personally find that my body wants more and more water. I drink a lot more afterwards.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, is there a
So there's-
Flush it
correlation?
out. Right here.
It's so, and I would imagine that your doctor wants to avoid that if you are holding on to extra fluid, right? So if you're eating high amounts of sodium, you're taking in more fluids, and now you're holding on to even more fluids that your kidneys are backed up and can't get rid of.
But why would the body basically say, hey, you're taking in too much sodium, now give me more water?
In a normal functioning body, you know, if you have too much sodium, your body wants to flush it out.
Okay,
The problem with kidney disease is that function is now slow.
right.
It's backed up. So imagine
Okay.
you have all this work you need to do with one person and that one person is used to being a team of 4. You know, the work's not going to get done as fast and there's going to be a buildup.
Okay.
Okay. All right, so we'll touch on cholesterol. This is prevalent in all chronic kidney disease stages, and in fact, in life in general. Definitely, again, we're really trying to keep the pressure off of your kidneys, off of your heart, right? So some lifestyle changes that you could take to implement a diet that's friendly and will help you have less cholesterol, eating foods that are lower in saturated fats, which has a lot of cholesterol. Saturated fats is in a lot of red meat, okay? It's in specific oils, like coconut oil has a lot of saturated fat. So this is definitely something that's listed on your food labels that you could see. Okay, losing weight if necessary. This will definitely bring down cholesterol levels. Getting regular exercise, of course. Smoking causes excess cholesterol too, so cutting that out, limiting alcohol, or else, unfortunately, it could be, you know, just a genetic thing with a lot of families do have this in their family where their cholesterol is too high no matter what they do, and they still need to be on medication. Here is just some labs for cholesterol. Usually they'll do a whole panel, which I'm sure you've seen with your primary care doctor. They do the different types of cholesterol and then the triglycerides. So again, we just want to stay in our green zone, understanding, you know, what optimal and near optimal is, and definitely staying away from our high to very high, which you do not want your triglycerides, so to speak, above 500. That can be, you know, you need to change your diet and possibly be on medication at that point. Okay. Alrighty, malnutrition. This is something that could come later on in chronic kidney disease when you're, you know, it's hard. It's hard to balance. Okay, I can't have these things. I'm afraid to eat, you know, what can I eat, right? So this is where we definitely recommend if you have a lot of complications with protein, phosphorus, potassium, and you're confused at how to balance this, definitely going to see a dietitian at this point would be highly recommended. Okay, because you don't want to get to this point where, you know, your body isn't getting the important nutrients that it needs to just sustain itself and have energy. Okay, right? That's how we get our energy, is through our food. So you definitely want to watch out for symptoms of tiredness, dizziness, and weight loss. In kidney disease, especially late stage, that's a high prevalent thing where sometimes you will start to lose a little bit of weight because, again, you're trying to balance what you can have, what you cannot have. Okay. So I know I kept talking about what we can't have, right? But I threw this slide in here because I think it's good to see, you know, there are meals that you can balance and make for yourself and still, you know, eat healthy, eat tasty food. And these are examples from the Kidney Kitchen, okay? And I like this because it breaks down, again, it'll tell you this is low potassium. We have our breakfast example up here, medium phosphorus, medium protein. Once you click into it, it tells you how many milligrams or grams of each, so that you can kind of
get on the website.
Yep.
Because it doesn't say what food, there's eggs, but what else is in there? What's underneath the eggs?
Right. So once you click into each individual, you say, this looks good to me. I want to get the recipe. You click in, it'll tell you the whole ingredients, what to do, but it also tells you how much of each, like potassium, protein, sodium, all of that. And then it has the other little tags like low carb, low sugar, vegetarian, right? Which that doesn't really make sense for eggs, but you know,
What?
vegetarian.
Well, there are some vegetarians that eat eggs.
That's true. All right.
It wouldn't make sense for like a vegan,
Right.
who doesn't eat,
You're
who
right,
doesn't eat
with the
any
cheese.
meat products at all.
You're right.
If they consider eggs coming from a chicken,
Yes.
so they would, so a vegan
This is
wouldn't
true.
eat that, but a vegetarian would eat that.
Yeah. Okay. But then we have like a lunch, you know, the festive meatball skewers they have, and then again, for dinner. So you could search on each of these different meals. I really like this website. I think
Is it
It's
your
good.
work? Did you make up these recipes?
No,
Oh,
nope, I'm not that creative.
oh, okay,
No, this
you
is a
got this?
website built by kidney dietitians.
okay, and it's called Kidney Kitchen.
Yes.
But it's on the PRINE website?
It is on, and I'll make sure you guys have it before you walk out. It's called a Padlet that we created for our patients. So it
Oh,
has all these
okay,
different
all right.
resources,
okay.
that, you know, you'll click it and it brings you into a different website.
That looks like a turkey and zucchini, green squash, right?
Yep.
In the middle one,
Mhm.
and, yeah, cauliflower and some kind of pasta.
Yeah, so, but it has a lot of different diverse recipes. So it has, you know, if you're used to ethnic foods, they have, you know, different ethnicities, which is nice, or, you know, just very diverse between breakfast to dinner, with easy to advanced difficulty levels.
They actually
So,
have ethnic, quote unquote, recipes.
yeah, I
Because
looked
the
into it.
recipes I used to go through years
Mhm.
ago, there was nothing that my mother made was ever.
I know. That's why I liked this, because it had different diverse food
We used
groups.
to have plantains with just about
Oh.
every meal,
I know,
and there was nothing, I mean, there was never a mention of that at all.
right. And that's what you're used to eating. So it's like, you know, that's your comfort food.
You know, in New York and other states, it used to be anyway, when you had a dinner in a restaurant, they would serve you bread, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, in Puerto Rico,
They bring out the
you
plantains, I
get
know, the
plantains, yeah,
platanos.
but they
Mhm.
call it tostones.
Yep. Oh,
They bring it with every meal, you have it. I
oh,
mean,
yeah,
So my mother used to make it all the time.
I know. I'm
Never
half
saw
Puerto
that in
Rican.
recipes.
I get it. I get it. Roast gandules, all of that stuff. So I just made them the other day. So good. But yeah, you're used to that. So,
Yeah.
you know. All right. So you guys will find that on your Padlet linked.
And the link is not here though, right?
No, I'm gonna make sure you guys
Okay,
have
gotta
it. I
get it.
have to add it to that. You guys on Zoom have it. I emailed it to all of you. We'll touch briefly on medications, okay? Of course, medications can be prescribed in place of proper dietary precautions, but we want you to kind of try to see if you could change these levels based off of your diet first.
Without
That's
adding another
always,
medication.
exactly. I mean, I think that's fair for our patients,
Because
you
even the
know,
kidneys have to process the medication. So the
exactly.
more medication you take,
You're
the
right.
more work your kidneys have to do to get to.
You're
flush it out of
right.
your body.
And with medication, there's just pros and cons or side effects, but it's fixing one thing, causing another. So we'd rather try the diet changes, but sometimes even despite your diet changes and the best efforts to avoid the complications, if things are remaining uncontrolled, your doctor might have to still prescribe medication, especially if it's at a dangerous level. Okay. We already talked about that, trying to control with diet first, as the medications have side effects. But I will just briefly talk about possible medications for each issue. We talked a little bit about diuretics, which are water pills that help rid the body of excess fluid. Okay. Phosphorus binders can be prescribed, and this prevents the body from absorbing excess phosphorus from the food that you eat. So it kind of takes it and absorbs it through your stomach, and that way you can get rid of it through that route instead.
Do you know
Okay.
what calcitriol is? Is
That's not a phosphorus binder. That
It's
helps
not.
with the vitamin D,
Oh, okay.
that activated vitamin D. Yes. There's medications for high potassium. There are two different medications. One of them, is something that you take for emergence, where it's getting rid of a high amount of potassium one time. There are other medications that you're on for more long-term, with just helping the body balance it out on a day-to-day or every other day basic for the potassium. Okay. All right, so that's all I have for, this is what you're pointing at me to do. The medications, and we're coming to our end here. I don't know if you guys have any questions that you wanted me to clarify. Okay, so we'll see how well I did and how well you did by my little quiz over here. Okay, So those of you on Zoom too, feel free to call out true or false. Number one, excessive salt intake can lead to diabetes mellitus, which is damaging the kidneys over time.
True.
Right? Yes, false.
Right, that doesn't lead to
Correct.
diabetes.
Nope.
Diabetes mellitus is type 2 diabetes, isn't it?
Yes.
So no, excessive salt doesn't lead that, doesn't cause that.
Good. Good, good. Yep. The excessive salt intake does,
Damage your kidneys.
and it leads to high blood pressure.
Right.
So that was my trick question there. 2, limiting sodium to 2,000 milligrams a day to protect your kidneys and avoid fluid retention in later stage chronic kidney disease.
True.
I think that,
True.
2,000 milligrams?
Yes.
It seems
True.
like a lot.
Remember the teaspoon.
Right, right.
The
That
teaspoon is a
teaspoon
2,000. And
milligrams.
you think about it, that's a lot, I feel
Yeah, I
like.
think that's a lot too,
It is.
especially if you're not counting in the added sodium in the rest of your foods.
Yeah,
If you said, oh, I can still have a teaspoon, but you're eating,
That's
say,
a lot
canned
on top
string
of it.
beans,
yeah.
it's a lot of sodium.
Exactly. 3, protein creates waste products that are hard for kidneys to get rid of in CKD.
That's true.
True.
4, keto, paleo, and Atkins
False.
diets
False.
preferred. False. This is false, exactly. We're trying to stick to lower protein, right? Number 5, when your kidneys are not working well, extra protein goes back into your bloodstream instead of out of the body.
True.
True.
True, yep, sorry, I'm clicking way too fast.
Mhm.
True, exactly. So we want to definitely make sure you're keeping an eye on this if this is an issue for you. Number 6, phosphorus is found in fast foods, processed foods, canned and bottled drinks, and enhanced meats.
True.
True.
Exactly. And then 7, the more sodium in your urine, the more likely you are to retain fluid.
True.
I don't know if that's true. I think that might be false.
Oh, we got
I think it's true.
so no, you're right.
Yeah.
This is my trick question too.
Mhm.
So remember, the more protein in your urine,
Right.
you are more likely to retain fluid.
And actually, if I'm thinking right, the more sodium in your urine, well, at least you're getting rid of the sodium.
Yep,
in your
exactly.
urine If this, right, but they don't like to see protein in the urine,
Correct.
because then that means you're taking in too much protein and you're like spilling it into the urine.
Correct.
And they don't like that, doctors don't like that, right?
Exactly. Yep, definitely. There we go. We got an A student, guys.
Mhm.
Okay, I think that's my last one. Nope, this is my last one. Okay, medications can be prescribed in place of proper dietary precautions and may have side effects.
That's true.
True.
Yeah.
Exactly. So we always, definitely after watching this, talk to your doctors about, possibly, that's kind of gonna lead us into our dietitian talk here. If they think it's worth it for you to have a consult, even just seeing them one time, seeing, based off of your blood work, they'll do the work ahead of time, give you each, amount of how many grams you should have of protein. If you need to limit your potassium or phosphorus, it's very, helpful to get guidance from the renal dietitian. Okay. Again, it's a personalized for your exact needs. So I can tell you, the basics here of what you may have to look out for, but you won't know what's specific to you until you do go and see the renal dietitian.
When
Okay.
you are eating fresh fruit, I mean, there's a lot of different fresh fruit that can be eaten. And what I've seen is, like, in the case of a banana, you should only have a half of a banana because of the potassium, etc. What about things like berries, which are supposed to be great for you? Blueberries especially. Strawberries,
Yeah.
What about grapes?
Grapes.
Are they?
Those are definitely, they're on the list. I know, I feel like they are towards the lower amount. But again, we just have to look at that and be sure. But they'll tell you, for portion, dietitians are very good with visualization and portion sizes. Based off of like, if it's the palm of your hand or,
Something like berries, or
Mhm.
blueberries, strawberries, raspberries. They say you can eat as much as you want. Don't worry about
I-
portion size.
Yeah, I
Because they're
think,
supposed to give you so much benefit.
right, but I think, you know, if we try to look into, if you are a patient that needs to limit potassium. If they don't have a lot of potassium, but you're still eating a lot of it, it could
Yeah.
still be increasing
But
the
they do have
amount.
potassium, these berries, right?
Yeah,
They do. Basically, everything that grows out of the ground has potassium.
and like, I
No,
think.
bananas don't grow out of the ground.
No, but.
Well,
anything-
yeah, they come from the ground.
And
They're in a
orange-
tree,
and
but
oranges
a
are
tree
pretty high
starts in
up,
the
too.
ground.
And oranges are, I've eaten oranges right off a tree, which are
I know,
delicious.
yes, but they start from a seed in the ground. That's what I mean.
But I think like with the whole berry thing, like if you limited it to a half a cup or a cup, I think if you sat down with your berries at breakfast and had 3 cups of berries, I mean, that's an excessive amount.
Exactly, so it
And
just
half
has
a
to make
cup or a cup
sense.
isn't gonna hurt you, but there are all kinds of guidelines out there in terms of berries or how many ounces of grapes you should have, or
Right,
there's all kinds of guidelines on that kind of stuff.
exactly.
Berries are good, but not.
They are.
Not 3 cups. of it.
Everything in excess is just,
Right,
it's an
right.
excess, you
That's
know?
right.
So just being practical in that guideline there. You guys, I don't know if everybody's aware, but there is a dietitian we have with PRINE. If you could call up your office, they will definitely facilitate
That's
that.
Steve, right?
Steve
Steve Delacroix.
Delacroix, yep.
Delacroix.
Mm-hmm, yeah. Okay, so quick little tidbits here to stay active in your care, understanding what we have to offer you through our nutrition and just kidney programs. We do have a newsletter that we share monthly with our community. We do put nutrition tips in there each month. Our Padlet board is what you guys have, but I will make sure you guys have it here before you leave.
What is it, Padlet, what?
Is that the, link right
Padlet
there?
board.
Mm-hmm.
Slash what?
Padlet.com/PrineCare/PrineEd. You guys can
Prime
write it
Care
down.
slash what?
And
Prime.
on there, you could bring it up on your phone. Okay.
Oh, let's take a look.
Prime Care dot online. Yes, and if you check.
Have chats. Thank you.
Okay.
Yes, I'll get to everybody's chats in a little bit, guys. Okay. Okay, just also knowing a lot of you guys are on either remote patient monitoring or chronic care management already, but we do have these available where our care managers will reach out to you on a monthly basis if you are interested in these programs. Ay, ay, ay. All right. That's our email. I do have, you guys have my card, but just in general, if you're interested in these things, you could email the PRINECare@prinehealth.com or text that number to get in touch with us. Yeah, in regards to our chat questions, so Nancy, I'll try to send you the info to get signed up with the dietitian, okay?
Okay, I'm
We
calling
definitely do
now.
have one.
They can't hear us.
And then that's pretty much it, guys. I mean, a lot of you guys already did join our other classes. Oh,
What
do
was
you?
the previous?
you need me to go
screen?
back?
I want to write the text area.
Yes, so you could text that and,
So that's
Say-
not a phone number you call.
Okay,
You just can text.
yeah,
That's
don't
a
call that
text.
number. That's a number for one of our offices, but we use it to text.
2727.
That's the call, yeah.
2737,
Yeah.
right?
37 is me,
Yeah, but
27 is
main
the
office.
general.
Right,
Okay.
right.
All right, guys,
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
you're welcome. This slide is just talking about our other classes that a lot of you guys joined already. We have the kidney B6 and then our choices for renal replacement. Okay. If you know you feel that you need a refresher, we could go through the class again. I'm in the process of recording all of these and we're uploading them to the Padlet so that you can kind of go through them on your own time too. Okay. All right, and that is it. We are at the top of the hour. Sorry, guys, I cut it through a little bit later. It's 12:02, but thank you guys so much for joining. Thank you, everybody on Zoom. I think, Nancy, I'm gonna reach out to you as well. All right, guys, take care.
Thank you.